Grandma's shocking discovery in the pulpit after 30 years reveals a devastating truth. Eleanor Fischer had been the soul of St. Michael's for as long as anyone could remember. Every Sunday, she settled into her beloved pew, the one furthest to the right, where the sunlight streamed through the stained glass, painting her with warmth. Her hands, weathered and soft, cradled a worn Bible, its pages filled with the echoes of her late husband's voice. To the townsfolk, she was the embodiment of grace and faith, a reminder of the love that had flourished within these church walls. But today was different. As she prepared to fill in for the absent pastor, a shiver of anticipation prickled at her skin. Their small town had always held its secrets close, but in that moment, a sense of something unexpected, perhaps even sinister, hung in the air. Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling as she approached the ornate pulpit. While configuring her notes, something caught her eye. A glint of light reflecting off a carved edge. Her heart raced. What could it be? She leaned closer. The pulpit, so enormous and grand, whispered of history and power, but now it felt like a weighty mystery. She peered closely and noticed a faint outline, as if the wood held a secret compartment even after all these years. With trembling hands, she pried it open. The creak of the wood echoed like a solemn bell tolling, sending a chill down her spine. Inside lay a trove of yellowed letters and faded photographs, each piece coated in dust and long-forgotten memories. As she took a deep breath, the musty smell of lost time filled her lungs. Her heart raced. What stories could they tell? Eleanor carefully unfolded a letter, its fragile paper crumbling at the edges. The words jumped off the page, shocking her to her core. This was no ordinary correspondence. It chronicled a forbidden romance that intertwined with her family's lineage, detailing betrayals and heartache that reshaped everything she knew about her husband's past. The signatures at the bottom flickered like haunted shadows, names she recognized but wished she didn't. Family members long gone and buried beneath the town's history. The pulse in her chest quickened, a lump forming in her throat. Memories of joy now mingled with disbelief and pain. What if these letters reveal the scandal that could unravel her family's legacy? The thought twisted inside her like a dull ache, stirring questions she had never dared to voice. She glanced at the congregation, their faces turned toward her in hopeful anticipation. How could she stand before them, carrying an unbearable truth? The fragile peace of their small town hummed in the air, but the shredding weight of her discovery threatened to drown her. Eleanor felt the walls closing in, the silence of the pulpit pressing against her. Would she reveal the hidden past, sacrificing the cherished image of her family, or hide the truth to protect those she loved? The tension mounted, leaving her breathless, each heartbeat echoing like a countdown. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Eleanor stood frozen, the weight of the letters heavy in her palms. The murmurs of the congregation faded into an indistinct buzz. Her heart raced. Just as she was about to compose herself, a deafening crash resounded from the back of the church. The doors swung open, slamming against the walls as a figure stumbled in, drenched in chaos and fear. It was Thomas, the church's caretaker. His face was pale, eyes wide as saucers, a stark contrast to the calm atmosphere Eleanor had grown used to. He gasped for breath, his body trembling. "You need to come quickly." His voice was strained, panic spilling forth. "It's the basement. There's something down there." Eleanor's heart dropped. The basement? No one ever spoke of it. Legends hushed through the town told of a hidden room, a place where secrets were buried, but no one had ever dared to investigate. "What do you mean?" Eleanor questioned, stepping down from the pulpit, her mind racing. "I found letters, like the ones you have, but worse, much worse." His voice cracked, eyes darting around, seeking affirmation. "It's a mess, Eleanor. You have to see this. We need to know the truth." But as she looked back at the congregation, their faces blurred together in a swirl of confusion and concern. The sight of Thomas, quaking with fear, shifted something deep within her. All the memories she cherished felt suddenly fragile, like glass. "Eleanor, please!" Thomas's urgent plea jolted her from her thoughts. "I saw faces. In old pictures? Faces I didn't recognize. They looked just like your husband, only younger." Her breath caught. "Her husband? What are you talking about?" She stepped closer, her forehead wrinkled in disbelief. He hesitated, glancing back nervously. "We can't talk here. Please, you have to see it for yourself." Before she could respond, the church bells chimed, cutting through the tension. It echoed like a summons, jolting Eleanor from her trance. The congregation began to shift restlessly, faces shocked and whispering amongst themselves. They were losing focus, waiting for her to say something, anything, but her thoughts were too scattered. "Just a moment," she stammered, turning back to the crowd, struggling to keep her composure. But Thomas overwhelmed her urgency. "There's more. The letters, they talk about a cover-up. A tie to your family, your lineage, Eleanor. They mention blood and secrets locked away for decades." The heart of the church pulsed with unease. Eleanor felt the prickling sensation of eyes boring into her. She could hear whispers approaching the back row. "What is going on? Did you hear that? About her family?" Eleanor's mind raced. The letters she held, the truth she feared to unveil, now echoed in Thomas's words. It all felt symbiotic. Two stories entwined, yet so disparate. What if everything she believed about her family was built on lies? With a sharp intake of breath, disbelief washed over her, mixing with anger. She felt betrayed, not by the letters, but by the shadows of her own. Life threatening to consume her. Her voice trembled as she stepped closer to Thomas, urgency flooding her being. "Let's go, now." As they hurried toward the exit, Eleanor could feel the weight of the congregation's eyes, probing, questioning. A deep-rooted fear bubbled within her, blending with an unexplainable thrill. They were walking toward a revelation that could tear her whole world apart. In the silence that followed, a strange feeling settled in her chest. The stirring of secrets long buried, ready to claw their way into the light. What awaited her in that dark basement? Would the letters reveal the truth, or ensnare her deeper into a web of lies? And as they stepped out, a cold wind whipped around them, almost as if warning them to turn back, that some truths were better left buried. Eleanor and Thomas hurried down the church's dim hallway, past peeling paint and old wood that felt like whispers of the past. Each step echoed with both dread and anticipation, the weight of unsaid truths pressing on them. Eleanor's heart raced. Her mind was tangled in thoughts of the letters that uncovered the seams of her family's history. As they slipped into the basement door, a chill washed over Eleanor. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and mold. The dim light from a single bulb flickered like a heartbeat. She squinted into the shadows, where the walls seemed to strain against the weight of forgotten stories. Thomas led the way, his eyes darting around nervously. "I swear I saw something. Something that can't be real," he murmured, his voice shaking. "What do you mean?" Eleanor pressed, fear gnawing at her insides. "What did you find?" "I saw old photographs, so old they seemed to breathe dust," he continued, his breath hitching. "And a journal. It spoke of rituals, things tied to your family." "Rituals?" Eleanor echoed, a creeping unease slinking through her. Her heart thudded like a drum. The shadows of her past creeping closer. "What kind of rituals?" "I don't know, but I think it has to do with—" Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the tension. Eleanor jumped, her heart leaping into her throat. In the flickering bulbs, light. A figure loomed in the doorway. A tall man, his face hidden in darkness. "Who are you?" Thomas shouted, stepping protectively in front of Eleanor. The figure lurched forward, stumbling into the light. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. It was her husband, Daniel. But there was something unmistakably off about him. His clothes were tattered, dirt smeared across his face, and his eyes, they were wild and empty, like he had just escaped something horrendous. "Daniel?" Eleanor gasped, reaching out. "What happened?" He looked at her, and for a moment it felt like she was staring into a stranger's soul. They know. You need to go. You must leave this place, now." "What do you mean?" Eleanor pressed, panic rising in her chest. She couldn't make sense of it. The man she loved, the life they built, slipping away like sand through her fingers. But just then, he raised a hand, as if trying to ward off something unseen. "Eleanor, listen, they're coming for me, for us!" His voice cracked, desperation spilling into the room. "Who's coming?" Thomas asked, his eyes wide with fear. Daniel turned, sweat glistening on his forehead. "You don't understand. The letters, what they reveal." "No." Eleanor shouted suddenly, her voice slicing through the growing chaos. "What's in those letters? What do they have to do with you?" Daniel looked at her, anguish etched deep into his features. "It's not just family secrets. It's blood. Our blood, Eleanor. We're connected in ways I can't explain, and it's dangerous. You have to trust me." Eleanor's world tilted. "What are you talking about?" Before he could answer, the basement door swung open once more, revealing a group cloaked in shadow, their faces hidden behind masks. "There you are," one rasped, stepping forward. "Time to confront the truth." Eleanor's heart dropped. Every breath felt heavy, and her mind whirled. Daniel was slipping away, his grasp on reality fraying. The letters, the basement. The strange ties binding her to a past she never wished to uncover. They all spiraled out of control. The masks glinted ominously as Eleanor felt the walls close in, her heart pounding. "Run!" Daniel yelled, desperation flooding his voice. The words hung in the air, resonating like a final chord. The mystery deepened, shrouded in fear. What secrets did these masked figures hold? What had Daniel meant about their blood? Eleanor felt the ground shift beneath her feet, the threads of her life unraveling swiftly, leaving her gasping. As the masked figures advanced, she sensed only one thing. This was just the beginning. Eleanor stood frozen, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Daniel's wild eyes seemed to pierce through the dim light, like a beacon of desperation. The masked figures advanced, shadows pooling around them like dark water, hungry and ready to strike. "Run!" Daniel yelled again, his voice echoing cracked fear. But just as Eleanor opened her mouth to protest, a piercing scream erupted from the doorway. It wasn't just anyone. Judy, her closest friend from the congregation, stumbled in, her face twisted in terror, her eyes wide as saucers. "Eleanor!" she gasped, clutching the doorframe like it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. Behind her, a dark figure emerged from the shadows, the true source of Judy's fear. He stepped forward, and Eleanor's blood ran cold. It was Father Paul, the beloved pastor. But something was wrong, far too wrong. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by a twisted grin, eyes glinting with a malice she had never witnessed before. "Oh, my dear," he crooned, voice draped in mock affection. "You should have never come down here. The secrets of St. Michael's were never meant to be unearthed." Eleanor's heart hammered in her chest. "What are you talking about?" The words slipped from her lips like a desperate plea. She glanced at Daniel, searching for reassurance. The look in his eyes was pure panic. "It's all connected," Father Paul continued, stepping closer, every movement calculated. "Your family's history, it's drenched in darkness. Your blood runs deeper than you realize. You are..." But the fearful figures behind him surged forward. The group parted, revealing a woman, her mother. Eleanor's breath hitched in her throat as she recognized her. The soft brown curls, the worn face, it was unmistakable. But her mother's gaze held a kind of intensity Eleanor had never seen before. "Mom!" Eleanor gasped, reaching out. But her mother's eyes reflected a dark, unsettling knowledge, and she didn't move. Instead, she turned to... "It's true, isn't it?" she whispered, eyes darting between Eleanor and her mother. "Your family, it's been hiding a legacy tied to this church, a legacy no one can escape." Eleanor felt the weight of their gaze shift as Father Paul continued, his voice like syrup, smooth but thick with poison. "This isn't just about secrets. It's about power, and you were chosen to renew the binding. Do you see the choice you face?" Eleanor's mind spun wildly. The letters, her family, Daniel. Everything she thought she'd known shattered into fragments. "You're lying!" she shouted, but uncertainty crept into her voice. "I refuse to believe this madness." But a thought flashed, a heat boiling in her chest. Hadn't she always felt the heaviness in her blood? The urgency to uncover truths that seemed to slip away like smoke? The flicker of chaos ignited within her, drowning the remnants of the life she thought she knew. As the masked figures advanced, Eleanor felt the ground thrum beneath her feet. "Stop!" she screamed, a desperate attempt to regain control. "What do I have to do?" But before anyone could respond, a loud crash sliced through the suffocating tension. The basement wall shuddered. Cracks spider webbing across its surface, like the frantic heartbeats of all present. Dust clouded the air, and a deeper darkness settled around them, clutching at Eleanor's throat as realization washed over her. The truth was unraveling, and there was no escaping the legacy tied to her blood. The secrets twisted, deep roots clawing for her to understand. Who truly was her mother? What had she been protected from? In that moment, surrounded by chaos and the looming dread of what was to come, one thought rang through her. Would she embrace the truth, or would it embody her as it had for generations past? As the walls trembled, Eleanor stood on the precipice of everything, her breath hitching, heart racing, clutching the strings of her shattered reality. What awaited her when the dust settled? Eleanor stood at the edge of a precipice, the weight of the room pressing down. Her mind raced, tangled in fear and confusion. Daniel's wild eyes reflected her own panic. The masks loomed like specters, closing in. She felt the walls pulse around her, the thundering heartbeat of the church matching her own. "Eleanor," Daniel's voice cracked, "you have to remember it's all been a lie." Before he could finish, a deafening roar erupted from the darkness behind the masked figures. The sound tore through the tension like glass shattering. In an instant, the floor trembled beneath their feet. The bulbs flickered violently, casting wild shadows on their faces, dancing in chaos. "Run!" Judy screamed, panic flooding her voice, but the ground shook and fear seized Eleanor in place. Suddenly, a brilliant light erupted from the cracked wall, blinding everyone for a moment. Eleanor shielded her eyes, heart hammering in her chest. When the light dimmed, a silvery form emerged, shimmering like liquid. It pulsated with energy, rippling through the air, and then it solidified. Eleanor's breath caught. It was a girl, young and ethereal, her skin glowing softly. She looked familiar, yet entirely foreign. Long dark hair framed her delicate face, eyes impossibly deep, drawing everyone in. There was an unsettling calm about her as she stepped forward, pushing past the masked figures. Enough. Her voice was a whisper, yet it resonated with authority. "You do not control her." Eleanor's heart raced. "Who are you?" She felt exposed, every secret suddenly laid bare. The girl looked directly at her, a softness breaking through the chaos. "I am Hannah, the truth of your family." Silence fell, every eye locked on the newcomer. "What?" Eleanor's voice trembled, confusion clouding her mind. "How do you know my family?" Hannah took another step forward, glancing back at Father Paul. His face contorted with rage. "No!" he shouted, voice thick with desperation. "You weren't meant to be here. You were erased. A sacrifice." Eleanor gasped. "Sacrifice?" The word hung heavy in the air. "Erased?" But Hannah continued, unfazed. "They tried to bury your destiny. They thought they could contain it. But blood is powerful, Eleanor. They sought to keep you from uncovering the truth. You are meant for much more." Before she could reply, Daniel shouted, panic in his voice. What does she mean? Eleanor, listen! But suddenly, the masked figure surged forward, threatening to engulf Hannah. Stop! Hannah cried, raising her hands. The air crackled with energy. The room filled with an iridescent light that flickered like flames. The masked figures paused, disoriented. You cannot protect her, one barked. It's too late. Eleanor felt her throat dry as realization dawned on her. Protect me from what? She whispered, fear slicing through her. From yourself, Hannah said, her expression shifting to one of sadness. The truth lies in your blood, and it's stronger than you know. You must choose. Choose? Eleanor shot back, confusion spiraling. Choose what? But before Hannah could speak, the church trembled again, louder this time. The walls cracked wider, and shadows seemed to writhe, as if something beneath the surface stirred. Eleanor felt a sudden wave of warmth wash over her, a surge of energy she had never felt before, as if the very air around her pulsed with life. In that moment, everything shifted. The ground beneath Eleanor's feet opened up, a gaping chasm forming. She felt a compulsion towards the darkness, a pull that was inescapable. No! She gasped, her voice slicing through the chaos. Judy clung to her arm, eyes wide with terror. Eleanor, we have to go! But then, in that split second, Daniel stepped between her and the opening. You belong to this, Eleanor. We can't run. You must face it. His voice shook with an emotion she couldn't quite identify. Fear? Rage? Love? Eleanor's heart pounded. The truth of her lineage, the weight of her blood, the legacy that had haunted her family for generations, all lay before her in that infinite darkness, beckoning. And just when she thought she could grasp the meaning of it all, a deafening crash trembled through the church once again. The ground rocked violently beneath them, and Eleanor felt herself tipping toward the darkness, the chasm calling her name like a siren. As everything around her erupted into chaos, a thought slammed into her mind. Was she ready to confront the truth, or was the truth about to swallow her whole? Eleanor stood at the edge of the chasm, her heart racing, the darkness below whispering her name. With every step closer, fear clawed at her gut. No, she yelled, fighting against the pull of the unknown. Voices echoed around her, Judy's, Daniel's, fading into a buzz as her focus narrowed on Hannah, who hovered like a ghost made of light. Please, you have to trust me, Hannah urged, her voice almost melodic against the chaos. Eleanor shook her head, desperation creeping in. Trust? How can I trust you? I don't even know what you really are. Suddenly, the ground beneath Daniel cracked wide open. He fell to his knees, grasping at the edges. Eleanor! He shouted, terror twisting his face. The masked figures yanked back, their eyes wide with a mixture of shock and fear. Together! Hannah shouted, extending her hand toward Eleanor. You must choose. The truth will save you. But before Eleanor could react, the blinding light surged again, illuminating the basement in a fierce glow. Shadows trembled and flickered like frantic flames, filling the space with a mix of panic and urgency. In that very moment, something extraordinary occurred. The air thickened, charged with a different kind of energy. It was electric, powerful, yet terrifying. Eleanor glanced toward her mother, but the warmth she had expected was absent. Instead, Her mother stood still, eyes clouded, as if watching a violent storm approach. Everything shifted when Hannah's form pulsed a brilliant glow, and then it happened. The light exploded outward, transforming the room. Eleanor stumbled as the rush enveloped her, suffocating, yet freeing. And just then, the walls of the church trembled and began to dissolve into a cascade of memories. Images flashed. Before her, her life, her family, even moments she thought long gone. Among the swirl, one moment caught her completely off guard. A dark figure standing in a crowded room, cloaked in shadows. And in that instant, she recognized the figure. "No, it can't be," she gasped, recognizing the face. The figure was a younger version of Father Paul. The revelation hit her hard, a tightness in her chest as fear twisted her heart. "You!" she yelled, pointing an accusing finger at what felt like her entire world crashing down. "You've been in on this all along." "Eleanor, it's not what you think." Father Paul's voice trembled, laced with a strange urgency. "I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" she spat, anger flooding her. "Feigns. From the truth?" Before he could answer, the masked figures erupted into chaos, their shadows swirling around him like a whirlwind. "No! We can't let her find out!" one shouted, panic rising. Eleanor felt lightheaded. Daniel clutched her arm tightly, his breathing frantic. "What is happening?" he whispered, eyes wide with fear. Then it happened. One of the masked figures stepped forward, removing their mask. Eleanor froze, her breath hitching in her throat. "Mom?" Staring back at her was her mother, but she wasn't the same. A dark energy resonated from her, a chilling smile twisting her features. "You've been too blind, Eleanor. You always were." Everything spiraled into confusion. You're one of them?" Eleanor's voice cracked. "Not just one of them," her mother said. "I was the orchestrator." A shockwave of disbelief cascaded through Eleanor's mind, echoing her thoughts like thunder. The letters, the history, everything she thought she knew was a lie, woven with deception. "Why?" "Control," her mother replied coolly, her demeanor shifting seamlessly from warmth to ice. "Your bloodline holds the power to bind this town in shadows, and I wasn't about to let you walk away from it." "It can't be," Daniel yelled, stepping protectively towards Eleanor. "She's lying!" But Eleanor felt the truth resonate with a dark certainty. "You let me believe I was safe, that I was loved." Her heart cracked open, the betrayal slicing deep. The ground beneath them shook as the basement walls trembled again. Cracks, spiderwebbed wider, and chaos enveloped the air. In that moment of heart-stopping realization, Eleanor grasped Hannah's hand. "What do I do?" she cried. But before Hannah could answer, a deafening roar erupted, drowning out words as the darkness of the chasm threatened to swallow them whole. Eleanor stood on the brink, caught between light and shadow, with the fate of her family, and possibly the town, hanging in the balance. The air crackled with tension, responses trapped in everyone's throats. "What will you choose?" echoed through the chaos. And as the walls began to crumble around her, an icy realization struck. The decision rested not just on her shoulders, but upon the entire legacy bound in blood. Everything she believed shattered. leaving only one question ringing in her mind. Would she embrace the darkness or fight against the tide threatening to consume her? Eleanor stood at the edge of the chasm, frozen in shock, the swirling darkness below threatening to consume her. The air was electric, crackling with unspoken truths and fears. What will you choose? Hannah's words echoed like a haunting melody. Just before Eleanor could answer, a sudden gust of wind blew through the basement, pulling at her hair and clothes like an unseen force. The shattering crash of a door flying off its hinges echoed behind her. Everyone turned as an enormous shadow loomed in the entrance, blocking out the faint light above. "Stop!" cried a voice that sent chills down Eleanor's spine. It was Sheriff Miller, a figure of authority in town, but now he looked unhinged, wild-eyed and draped in a long black coat, stained and tattered at the edges. "Sheriff?" Eleanor gasped, recognizing him through the dim light. "What are you doing here?" His eyes darted around the room, landing on the masked figures. "You shouldn't be here. You need to leave." He stepped inside, breathing heavily. "It's not safe. The truth, it's worse than you know." Eleanor felt a swell of confusion. What truth? Before he could respond, the walls shook violently again, and the ground quaked beneath their feet. The ceiling rumbled ominously, sending small bits of dust tumbling down like snowflakes around them. Panic rippled through the group. "Eleanor, you have to listen." Sheriff Miller implored, voice cracking. "Your family didn't just make a pact for power. It was a curse. A curse designed to control this town." He paused, and the room fell silent. Every breath held as tension thickened the air. "You're part of it, but you don't know yet what that means." A gasp broke from Judy's lips. "What? A curse?" Hannah stepped forward, her form shimmering, eyes wide with urgency. "No, this can't happen." Eleanor felt her heart pound. "What curse?" she demanded, fraught with anxiety. Miller took a breath, steeling himself. "There's a reason your mother and Father Paul tried to hide the truth. Everyone linked to your family is like a vessel. Sacrifices meant to contain something dark." "Sacrifices?" Eleanor echoed, disbelief mixing with a sickening dread. "Yes," Miller said, eyes glazed with horror. "You're the newest generation meant to carry this mantle. They plan to bind you just like they did with past generations. You must choose. Don't let them control you." Eleanor's world twisted. Thoughts raced. Her family's secrets, the legacy she never asked for, the love she thought she understood. "This isn't who I am," she shouted. But it was the sudden, sharp gasp of Daniel that sent chills through her. He grabbed her arm firmly. "Eleanor, listen to him." His voice was urgent, pleading. "They will use you if you don't fight against them." "What are you saying?" Eleanor looked from Daniel to the sheriff, confusion spiraling. And then it happened. A gasp broke from the crowd as a dark figure emerged from the shadows, stepping forward as if pulled by some unseen force. It was her mother again, but this time an unsettling aura surrounded her. Her once familiar features were now jagged, contorted by darkness, eyes shimmering with malice. "I tried to protect you," she hissed, voice like ice. "But it's too late. You can't escape what's inside you." Eleanor recoiled, heart pounding. "What do you mean?" "Your father," her mother rasped, and the room fell silent again, each person caught in the fervor of her words. "He was never truly gone. He was a part of this darkness. And now it wants you back. Understanding flooded Eleanor, shattering her previous beliefs. Every moment, every push in her life had led to this horrifying revelation. "No, no!" she cried, backing away as the emotions swirled within her like a storm. But as she stumbled back, she felt something shift beneath her. The ground shook violently, and the chasm opened wider, darkness swirling like smoke. "Help!" Eleanor screamed, feeling herself teeter on the brink. The shadows reached for her, but before they could grasp her, a blinding light enveloped the basement. And there, within the flickering brilliance, she caught sight of Daniel. His face twisted in agony, realization settling deep. "Eleanor, we need to jump together. Trust me." The urgency of his words pulled at her heart, heavy with truth and weighty betrayal. But then, a new thought gripped her, a chilling uncertainty about what it meant to trust. What if everything she knew had led her to this moment? What if this was all part of a scheme? As the walls creaked and a dark voice rose from the depths of the chasm, a final question burned in her mind. Would she jump into the light or embrace the shadow that claimed her legacy? Would she embrace love or face the curse she had been dealt? Eleanor stood at the edge of the chasm, heart racing. The darkness below, whispering promises she didn't want to hear. The air crackled with tension. "What will you choose?" Hannah's voice rang like an urgent bell, calling her to action. But everything spiraled when Sheriff Miller swung open the door, his shadow looming large, blocking the light. "Stop!" he shouted, voice strained, eyes wide with fear. "You can't do this. You have to listen to me, Eleanor. Your family's past isn't just dark, it's cursed." "Cursed?" Eleanor echoed, disbelief flooding her. The words hit her like a cold wave. She felt Daniel's grip tighten on her arm. "I wish I could explain more," Miller pressed, stepping into the chaos. "But the truth is more dangerous than you know. They'll try to bind you even now." "No!" Eleanor shouted, not wanting to believe him. Her heart raced like a wild animal in her chest. "This can't be real!" Suddenly, the ground shook violently, crackling with energy. The chasm yawned. Wider, pulling her towards it. "We need to jump!" Daniel yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos. But in that moment, everything shifted. The light around them seemed to pulse, and Hannah stepped closer, her form shimmering. "You can choose differently!" she cried, her eyes fierce with determination. "Eleanor!" Miller shouted again. "It was always meant to be this way, but you can break the cycle. You have the power to reshape it." Before she could process his words, her mother surged forward from the shadows. "Enough!" Her voice sliced through the air like a blade. "I did what I had to do to protect you." "Protect me?" Eleanor gasped, panic rising. The chaos played out like a twisted nightmare. But her mother's face twisted with a dark resolve. "The power isn't just in your blood. It's in your choices. We can control it together." "No!" Eleanor yelled, stepping away. The revelations felt too heavy, crushing her spirit. But before she could react, the ground beneath them cracked again, more violently. Dust spiraled into the air, and everything trembled. Then a blinding explosion of light erupted from the chasm. "Eleanor, no!" Daniel slammed his body against hers, shielding her as the burst of energy surged like a tsunami, tearing through the room. But then a voice boomed through the chaos, deep and resonant, filling the space like thunder. "Enough of this charade." All eyes turned, hearts racing, mouths agape, from the depths of the chasm. A dark figure emerged, cloaked in shadows. Vapors twisted around its limbs, and a chilling presence wrapped around everyone like a cold grip. Eleanor's heart stopped. Who are you?" she stammered, shock paralyzing her. "He is what you fear most," her mother hissed, her face pale as the figure stepped forward, illuminated in an eerie glow. "The truth behind the curse, the one who deceived us all." As the figure moved closer, shockwaves rippled through the crowd. Familiar features began to emerge. Eleanor's blood ran cold as she realized this was not just a stranger. It was her father. But not just her father. The twisted, dark reflection of the man she had lost. "I have been waiting," the figure said, voice smooth like silk, but cold as ice. "For you to realize the power of your legacy." "Dad, no, this can't be." Eleanor gasped, her voice trembling as the shock washed over her. The room erupted in chaos, whispers of disbelief, gasps of horror. "There's something you need to understand," he continued, eyes gleaming with dark knowledge. "Your journey isn't just about breaking free. It's about embracing what you are meant to become." Every emotion boiled within her, a mix of fear and betrayal. Daniel stepped in front of her, protective still, but uncertainty flickered in his gaze. "Eleanor, don't listen to him." But the shadow of her father was powerful. "Ah, Daniel, you're just in the way. That's the problem, isn't it?" Eleanor felt the weight of everything shift. What did he mean? Was Daniel truly her protector, or like everyone else, just another part of this twisted web? Chills raced down her spine as realization dawned. Trust was slipping through her fingers like sand. The world around her shuddered again as shadows trembled and whispered secrets that rattled her core. Would she break away from this darkness, or plunge into the very depths that awaited her? Would she confront the cursed legacy of her family, or let it swallow her whole? As the shadows tightened their grip, Eleanor stood on the brink of everything, realizing she was at the heart of a truth that could tear her world apart. What would she choose? Eleanor stood at the edge of the chasm, her heart racing, the shadows of her father swirling around her like smoke. Fear gripped her tight, leaving her gasping. "What do you mean? Embrace what I'm meant to become?" The words echoed in the air, pressing down on her. Daniel took a step forward, protective. "Eleanor, don't listen to him. This isn't who he is." He reached for her, eyes wide with urgency. But her father's voice swept through the chaos, a dark current that threatened to pull them all in. "You've always been destined for greatness, daughter. You were chosen to lead, to harness the power of your bloodline." Eleanor felt the ground tremble again, her heart pounding in sync with the vibrations beneath her feet. "I don't want any part of that," she shouted, the words flaring with desperation. But doubt crept in, whispering that she might not have a choice. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted behind them, a sharp sound that echoed like a gunshot. Everyone turned as a figure burst through the door, panting, eyes wild. It was Frank, the town historian, his face pale, a trembling stack of old documents in his hands. "Eleanor, you have to see this." "What are you doing here?" Eleanor gasped. The urgent fear in his voice made her heart skip. "Just look!" Frank stumbled forward. He clutched the papers tightly, desperation etched on his face. "It's about your family, the truth. There's more to it than what you know. They've hidden so much. It isn't just a curse." Not now, Frank, her mother snapped, stepping between them, her dark aura radiating as she glared. You don't understand. But Frank pressed on, ignoring her. It ties back generations. There's a prophecy, a way to end it. You're not just a vessel, Eleanor. You're the key to breaking the cycle. A sudden silence enveloped the room, the weight of his words hanging heavy. Everyone turned to Eleanor, the air thick with tension. What do you mean? She whispered, realizing she might be on the verge of a discovery that could change everything. They say, Frank's voice trembled, that your family has been bound to a dark power in this town. But it can be undone. There's a way, a ritual that involves... Stop! Just stop! Her mother yelled, her voice sharp like glass. You're lying! This isn't what it looks like! But it was too late. The room buzzed with murmurs, faces twisted in shock. Daniel looked at Eleanor, confusion and urgency in his eyes. Is this real? Eleanor felt her chest tighten. I need to know, she heard herself say, though every instinct screamed to run. Just then a blinding light erupted from the chasm, almost swallowing them. Eleanor shielded her eyes as shadows danced and writhed. The beams of energy shot upward, and in the chaos she felt something shift within her, like a key clicking into place. Eleanor! Frank shouted, and Eleanor tore her gaze from the light. You need to bind the power. You're the last in line. You have to complete the ritual. The moment hung heavy. Then her father stepped forward, his twisted smile widening. You see, even now, the family can't resist its fate? And then it hit her. Clarity cut through the fog of confusion and fear like a cold slap. No, she whispered, voice low yet fierce. You're controlling it all. But before she could process the weight of her realization, the light burst forth, enveloping her completely. In that moment, everything changed. The world around her shifted, colors warping, sound spiraling. She felt herself pulled into the chaos, everything else fading. But just as suddenly, the light was gone. Eleanor gasped, standing in a different place entirely. Everything around her flickered, then solidified. The shadows were gone, leaving her in a beautiful sunlit meadow. What just happened? She murmured, bewildered. Where were they? But then a voice echoed, a familiar voice. Eleanor, you finally arrived. A figure stepped forward. As it came into focus, Eleanor felt her heart drop. It was her younger self, smiling brightly, with none of the fear, none of the heaviness she felt now. But her eyes were filled with knowing. Welcome to the truth of who you are. Eleanor's legs trembled beneath her. What do you mean? Who are you? You will understand soon enough, her younger self said, voice laced with both hope and darkness. But now you must choose again. And as the sun shone brightly around them, illuminating the confusion and doubt, Eleanor felt a dawning realization pierce the air. The ghosts of her past weren't just in the shadows of St. Michael's. They were woven into the fabric of who she was. What truth would this version of her reveal? What choice lay ahead? Her heart raced as she teetered on the brink of everything, both familiar and terrifying. Would she step forward, or would she retreat into the depths of the chasm, where her unknown awaited? Eleanor stood, heart racing, the field around her drenched in sunlight, but heavy with foreboding. This younger version of herself radiated light, clarity shining through the mist of confusion. What do you mean? I'm here to confront my past, not some fantasy. The young Eleanor smiled softly, her presence somehow grounding. This isn't just a fantasy, it's a choice. Your choice. You can embrace what's in your blood and rewrite the rules. You can break the curse. Break the curse? Eleanor echoed, the weight of those words deepening the ache in her chest. Her memories flashed, the scars of betrayal, the pulsing darkness that had shadowed her family. There was no denying the chains binding her lineage. The meadow shimmered with promise. Yet the shadows of her past loomed close, whispering doubts. But I don't want the power. I want my family back. But where does that lead you? The younger Eleanor interjected, her voice steady. You can't go back. You can forge a new path. You hold the truth now. With it, you can save not just yourself, but everyone tied to this darkness. Eleanor's breath caught. Everyone! Her heart swelled with the weight of the town. The people, good and bad, all entwined with her fate. Then, with a rush, memories surged forth. The masked figures, her father's twisted smile, the terror of the basement. She could feel it, the power flaring within, a fire burning at her core. It was her choice. Hands trembling, Eleanor stepped forward. I'm ready. Her voice, once timid, now rang with conviction. Ready to confront it all. Just then, the meadow shifted. The air buzzed with tension, as echoes of the dark chasm beckoned her back. Eleanor, don't go! Daniel's voice cut in from. Behind, frantic and desperate, her heart ached to see him like that. I will never go back to that darkness, she shouted, sending a pulse through the earth. The light around her flickered in response, wrapping her in its warmth, pulling her closer to the choice that lay ahead. I choose to break the cycle, Eleanor proclaimed, voice strong and fierce. The ground beneath her glowed, the memories of her family swirling like leaves in a storm. I will not allow the darkness to consume me or anyone else. With that, the younger Eleanor reached out, grasping her hand. Then let's do this together. Suddenly, the shadows began to retreat, swirling away from Eleanor as if bound by an unseen light. The meadow pulsed, illuminating the dark ties constraining her family. The clarity surged through Eleanor, and she felt the connection strengthen, her resolve taking a physical form. As the last tendrils of darkness snapped, the world shifted one last time. She was back in the basement, the swirling shadows and chaos enveloped by a brilliant light. The figures seemed scattered, confusion etched on their faces. Her mother's eyes widened, disbelief filling the space. What have you done? Her mother's voice trembled, panic rising. Eleanor felt a surge of strength. I've chosen my own path. A crack echoed as the walls of shadows crumbled, dissipating like mist in the sun. Hannah stood beside her, crystalline energy radiating, and together, they faced the remnants of Eleanor's past. Your bold ends here, Eleanor declared, the weight of her ancestors lifting. You no longer control the legacy. In that moment, her voice shattered the silence. The unspoken power flowed through her, bursting forth like a river breaking through a dam, carrying with it the secrets of generations. The room lit up with vibrant colors, each shade a representation of freedom, hope, and light. As sisters forged by blood and truth, Eleanor and Hannah stood united against the remnants of darkness, poised to embrace the dawn of a new beginning. The town's burden began to lift as Eleanor turned back for one last look at the faces she loved. In their eyes, she saw respect, admiration, and the flicker of hope, no longer weighed down by fear. They believed in her. With a final breath, Eleanor stepped forward, her heart ablaze with possibility. The shadows dissolved into nothingness, and in their place, a legacy of strength and unity thrived. Now, my amazing friends, this is the moment to show your support. You have to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Your support makes all the difference. Let's keep this incredible story alive together.